गिरिवरदारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा श्रील प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा श्रील प्रभुपदा जय ओम वैष्णव भगवान च परिव्याख्या श्रुत सदस्य श्रीमती स्वामी श्री भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय इस्कॉन संस्थापकाचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय जय ओम वैष्णव परमहम च परिव्याख्या श्रुत सदस्य श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय जय ओम वैष्णव श्री गौर किशोरदास बाबा महाराज की जय जय ओम वैष्णव सच्चिदानंद श्री भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय जय ओम वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबा महाराज की जय जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शत गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय नमाचार्य दास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिव साधि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपना श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गोवर्धन की जय। श्री श्री गौरांगी बैंगलोर ईश्वर भगवान की जय। श्री मायापुर धाम की जय। श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद भागवतम की जय। इस्कॉन वर्तमान गुरुवृंद की जय। श्रीमान भक्तवृंद की जय। गौरव प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि। All glories to the assembly. It's all glories to the assembly. It's all glories to the assembly. It's all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Ishtaprayeshu Avatreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke. Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtihi. Hare Krishna, welcome to the Friday morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 9, text number 1 and text number 2. Text number 1. Maitreya Vacha Tayevam Utsanna Bhaya Urukrame Kritva Pitavanama Prayushtri Vishtapam Sahasra Sahashirshapi Tato Gurutmata Madhurvanam Mritya Vidrkshaya Gataha. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The great sage Maitreya told Vidura, when the demigods were thus reassured by the personality of Godhead, they were freed from all fears, and after offering their obeisances, they returned to their heavenly planets. Then the Lord, who is non-different from the Sahasra incarnation, got on the back of Garuda, who carried him to the Madhuvana forest to see his servant Dhruva. The word Sahasra refers to the personality of Godhead known as Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu. Although the Lord appeared as Kshirodaka Sai Vishnu, he has been described here as Sahasra Vishnu because he is non-different from Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu. According to Srila Sanatana Goswami in his Bhagavatamrita, the Sahasra personality of Godhead who appeared at that time was the incarnation known as Prishnigarbha. He created the planet known as Dhruvaloka for the habitation of Dhruva Maharaj. Text number 2. Savaidya Yoga Vipakati Braya Hritpadmahokoshe Spuritam Tadit Prabham Tirohitam Sahasaivoppalakshya Bahishtitam Tad Avastam Dadarsha. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The form of the Lord, which was brilliant like lightning, and in which Dhruva Maharaj in his mature yogic process was fully absorbed in meditation, all of a sudden disappeared. Thus Dhruva was perturbed and his meditation broke. But as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally present, just as he had been seeing the Lord in his heart. Because of his mature position in the yogic meditation, Dhruva Maharaj was constantly observing the form of the personality of Godhead within his heart. But all of a sudden, when the Supreme Personality disappeared from his heart, he thought that he had lost him. Dhruva Maharaj was perturbed, but upon opening his eyes and breaking his meditation, he saw the same form of the Lord before him. In the Brahma Samhita 5.38, it is said, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena, a saintly person who has developed love of Godhead by devotional service, always sees the Lord's transcendental form of Shyamasundara. This Shyamasundara form of the Lord within the heart of a devotee is not imaginary. When a devotee becomes mature in his prosecution of devotional service, he sees face to face the same Shyamasundara he has thought of during the entire course of his devotional service. Since the Supreme Lord is absolute, the form within the heart of a devotee, the form in the temple, and the original form in Vaikuntha, Vrindavan Dhamma are all the same. They are non-different from one another. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manam Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Udapadakammalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sagadotam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Shri Vishakan Vidamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Taptakanchana Gaurani Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shimanustade Pranamami Haripriya Panchakilpataru Vishakavasni Japattaram Pavane Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Moham Karvadi Vachalam Pangam Nandi Pada Muhammad Shivaram Dhantarna Parmada Madhav Shri Chaitanya Vishwara Hare Krishna. So we see here actually in chapter number 8 concludes with the demigod saying that Dear Lord, you are the refuge of all moving and non-moving living entities. We feel all living entities to be suffocating. Their breathing process choked up. We have never experienced such a thing. Since you are the ultimate shelter of all surrendered souls, we have therefore approached you. Kindly save us from danger. So, Dhruva Maharaj was performing severe austerities, because of which he could bring the movement of the entire universe to a standstill. So there was suffocation in the entire universe. The demigods were worried and they approached the Supreme Lord. And the Lord, in the last verse of the previous chapter, says, My dear demigods, do not be disturbed by this. It is due to the severe austerity and full determination of the son of King Uttanapada, who is now fully absorbed in thought of me. So the Lord gives an assurance to the demigods that they need not be disturbed because of this. This has happened because the severe austerity that has been performed by Dhruva Maharaj and his determination. Then he says that he has obstructed this universal process, breathing process. You can safely return to your respective homes. I shall stop this boy in his severe acts of austerities, and you will be saved from this situation. So the Lord gives the demigods an assurance that you need not be disturbed about it. You can go back, and I will stop this boy from his meditation or from his austerities. And this way, you all will be saved from this situation. So this way, the Lord gives an assurance to the demigods. And here we see that Maitreya Rishi telling Vidura, when the demigods were thus reassured by the personality of Godhead, they were freed from all fears. And after offering their obeisances, they returned to their heavenly planets. So when they were assured by the Lord, the demigods became free from fear and they returned back to their respective heavenly planets. Then it is said that the Lord, who is non-different from the Sahasra Shirsha incarnation, God on the back of Garuda, who carried him to the Madhuvan forest to see his servant Dhruva. So thereafter, the Lord went to see Dhruva Maharaj on the back of his Garuda, the carrier, and went to Madhuvan forest to see Dhruva Maharaj. So there are a few important points that are mentioned here. One of the points is that demigods also are afraid of death and darkness. And it is not that they are not in the situation like us. We also fear death. We also fear whenever there is darkness. And we are, in fact, in constant fear of so many things. So in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, within the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions, the demigods who are denizens of higher planets are also very much afraid of incidents such as universe becoming dark. And so they consulted Brahma. This indicates that the quality of fear exists for every living entity in this material world. That means eating, mating, sleeping, and defending is there in every living entity, whether it's a small, insignificant ant or a mosquito to all the way up to the demigods. So the fear element exists in the demigods also. On every planet, even the higher planetary systems, including the moon and sun, as well as on this earth, the same principles of animal life exist. Otherwise, why are the demigods always afraid of darkness? So Srila Prabhupada mentioned that all the way up to all the heavenly planets, including the sun and moon, there is always fear. Then there is another quote in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 29th chapter, where Lord Kapila explains to Mother Devahuti, the demigods who are denizens of higher planets are also very much afraid of incidents such as universe becoming dark And as they consulted Brahma, and so they consulted Brahma. So when the demigods have any difficulty, they don't have direct access to the Supreme Lord, they consult Brahma. Then it is mentioned that this indicates that the quality of fear exists for every living entity in the material. So whether it's a demigod or a human being or an insignificant fly, everyone is under always in the fear of death or darkness. Then it is mentioned that this includes the quality of fear exists for living entity. The four principal activities of material existence are eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. The fear element exists also in the demigods. On every planet, even in the higher planetary systems, including the moon and sun, as well as on this earth, the same principles of animal life exist. That means the eating, mating, fearing, and sleeping is existing even in the demigods as much as we living beings. So after demigods were given assurance uh, by the Lord, they offered obeisances to the Lord, and then they all went back to their respective abode. Then the next point that is mentioned here is that the Lord, who is non-different from the Sahasra Shirsha incarnation, God on the back of Garuda, who carried him to the Madhuvana forest to see his servant Dhruva Maharaj. So we'll understand this point. This word Sahish Shirsha refers to personality of Godhead known as Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu. So the Lord is absolute. The Lord, his name, his forms, his qualities are all non-different from each other. And Lord has got so many forms, and all the forms are non-different from each other. The form may be different, but in terms of potency, they are all non-different. So it is mentioned that although the Lord appeared as Shirodaksa Vishnu, he has been described here as Sahasa Shirsha Vishnu because he is non-different from Garbhodakasa Vishnu. So, according to Srila Sanatana Goswami in his Bhagavatamrita, the Shirsha personality of Godhead who appeared at that time was the incarnation known as Prishnigarbha. So we understand from this a little bit about Garbhodakasai and Vishnu and Shirodakasai Vishnu. Uh, there are few quotes in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself. In one, the first canto itself, there is mentioned that the personality of Godhead Krishna, who is famous as the king of Vasudeva, is full with all the opulences, all potencies, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation. Part of his opulences are manifested as impersonal Brahman, and part of his opulences are manifested as Paramatma. This Purusha feature of the same personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the original Paramatma manifestation of the Lord. That means the potencies are partially manifested in Brahman and Paramatma, but Paramatma manifestation uh, is a Purusha feature. And then Srila Prabhupada mentioned that the three Purusha features in the material creation, and this form, who is known as Karanodakasai Vishnu, is the first of the three. That means the first one is Mahavishnu, also known as Karanodakasai Vishnu. Others are known as Garbhodakasai and Vishnu and Shirodakasai Vishnu. So there are so many universes which are generated from this skin holes of Karnodakasai Vishnu. And in each one of the universes, the Lord enters as Garbhodakasai Vishnu. So when Lord Vishnu exhales, so many universes come out of his nostrils and the pores of his skin. And in each of the universe, the Lord further expands from Sri Mahavishnu to Garbhodakasai Vishnu. Then there is a mention in the third canto, the third chapter in First Gita, canto itself, third chapter. The Purusha, after creating innumerable universe in the Mahatattva, entered in each of them as the second Purusha. That means Mahavishnu is the first Purusha. Then he becomes the second Purusha as Garbhodakasai Vishnu. Garbhodakasai Vishnu lies in a water which is known as Garbhodaka water. And because he is lying down there, it's known as Garbhodakasai Vishnu. Then from his navel of the stem of the lotus flower, Lord is a lotus flower that sprouts on which Brahma or the appears. So Brahma became the engineer of the universe and the Lord took charge of the maintenance of the universe as Vishnu. So Brahma was generated from the Rajoguna of the Prakriti or mode of passion nature. Vishnu became the Lord of mode of goodness. Generally, it is said that maintenance is much more difficult than passion, than creation and annihilation. So Vishnu himself takes the form to main for maintenance. That is also described as a mode of goodness. And Vishnu is transcendental to all the modes, but is aloof from materialistic affection. So from Brahma, then there is Rudra, who is in charge of mode of ignorance or darkness. So he destroys the whole creation by the will of the Lord. Therefore, all the three, namely Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, are incarnations of Garbhodakasai Vishnu. So Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva manifest from Garbhodakasai Vishnu. From Brahma, the other demigods like Daksha, Marichi, so many others become incarnate to generate living entity. They are all Prajapatis. So this Garbhodakasai Vishnu is glorified in the Vedas in the hymns of Garbhastuti, which begin with the description of the Lord as having thousands of heads. So the Lord has got thousands of heads, and he is the Lord of the universe. And although he appears to be lying within the universe, he is always transcendental. We can see in many of the deities in the South India in particular, we see they show this form of the Lord. The Vishnu, who is the plenary portion of Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu, is the super soul of the universal life and is the maintainer of the universe or Kshirodakasai Vishnu. So Garbhodakasai, the Lord enters as Garbhodakasai Vishnu as the super soul of the universe. The universe is floating in the air, uh, and that is because the Lord has entered as the super soul of the universe. And then further, the Lord enters into each and every living entity as super soul of the jivas, and that is known as Kshirodakasai Vishnu. So the three features of the original Purusha are to be understood like this. And all the incarnations of the Lord which appear within the universe are emanations from this Kshirodakasai Vishnu. So whatever incarnation the Lord appears in this universe, they are all emanations from Kshirodakasai Vishnu. So this is how the three Purushas uh, act. That is Sri Mahavishnu, Garbhodakasai Vishnu, and Kshirodakasai Vishnu. And there is one more quote in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 8th chapter, which says, although persons who are unfit to enter into the spiritual affairs of the Lord can see him as the Archa Vigraha. So Archa Vigraha is non-different from Garbhodakasai Vishnu as well as the Kshirodakasai Vishnu also. And this Archa Vigraha, it is mentioned, descends on the material world just to distribute favors to the fallen souls, including the women, Shudras, Vijamandus. Because such fallen souls cannot see anything beyond matter, the Lord descends to enter into each and every one of the universes as Garbhodakasai Vishnu. And then in turn, he grows a lotus stem from the lotus-like depression in the center of this thing. Brahma appears. Brahma is born. Therefore, the Lord is also known as Pankajanabi. The Pankajanabi Lord accepts the Archa Vigraha. So the Pankajanabi form of the Lord accepts the Archa Vigraha in different elements, namely a form within the mind, form made of wood, form made of earth, or form made of metal, or form made of jewel, a form made of paint, and a form drawn on sand also. So this Archa Vigraha is coming from the Pankajanabi form of the Lord, and this can be made, the deity can be formed from any of these elements like mind, wood, earth, sand, etc. And all such forms are the Lord are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, and there should be a soothing atmosphere in the temple worship to attract the attention of the non-devotees who are always engaged in material sufferings. So the meditators worship a form of the Lord within the mind. So one cannot speculate on the form of the Lord within mind, but these are given in the scriptures. So the Lord is much more merciful even to women, Shudras, and Vijabandhus because somehow they come to the temple on some other reasons and they worship the various forms of the Lord. And these are not idol worship. So whatever form of the Lord we worship, they're all deity worship. That's why we don't call them as idol worship. And then there's a mention that all great acharyas established such temples of worship. in all places just to flavor the less intelligent. And one should not pose himself as transcending the stage of temple worship while one is in actually category of the Shudras or woman or less. So one should begin to see the Lord from his lotus feet, gradually rising to the thighs, then to the waist, then chest and face. One should try to look at the face of the Lord. One should not try to look at the face of the Lord without being accustomed to seeing the lotus feet of the Lord. That means one should not directly try to see the face of the Lord, but rather one should try to see the lotus feet of the Lord and gradually proceed upward to the lotus face of the Lord. Then there is one more quote in the first chapter, first canto itself. It says that within a halo of the universe, there is a transcendental planet known as Shvetadvipa, which is the abode of Kshirodaksa Vishnu, the Paramatma feature of the Lord. So Shvetadvipa is a planet for Kshirodaksa Vishnu, the Paramatma feature of the Lord. Whenever there is a trouble in the universe that cannot be solved, then all the demigods approach Brahma, and Brahma goes and prays to Kshirodaksa Vishnu for an incarnation and solution for the problems. And examples are given like when Kamsa appeared and he was creating a lot of atrocities, Brahma went and prayed at the shore of Kshirodaka ocean. And then the Lord advised them that he's appearing as Krishna, as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. There is also a mention in the first canto itself about the Lord as Vishnu resides within each and every universe in two capacities, namely Garbhodakasaya Vishnu and Kshirodakasaya Vishnu. That means every universe has got living entities, and the Lord exists in each of them as Garbhodakasaya Vishnu and Kshirodakasaya Vishnu. The Kshirodakasaya Vishnu has his own planet on the top of the universe, and there is a great ocean of milk where the Lord resides on the bed of Ananta incarnation of Baladeva. So this is how Garbhodakasaya Vishnu, Kshirodakasaya Vishnu, they all perform their uh, role. Then there's a quote in the second canto also. It says that the Lord expands by his different energies, by his plenary portions. In a corner of the spiritual sky of Brahma Jyoti, a spiritual cloud sometimes appears, and that is called Mahatattva. Then the Lord, by his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, lies down in the water of the Mahatattva, and that water is called the causal ocean. So just like there are ocean of water, there are also ocean of causes on which Sri Mahavishnu lies down. And when Mahavishnu sleeps on the causal ocean, innumerable universes are generated along with his breathing. These universes are floating and they are scattered all over the causal ocean. They stay only during the breathing period of Mahavishnu. So all these universes float only as long as the breathing period of Mahavishnu. And in each and every universal group, the same Mahavishnu enters again as Garbhodakasaya Vishnu and lies there on a serpent-like Shesha incarnation. So this is the how Garbhodakasaya Vishnu acts. Then there is a quote that the Lord's pastimes in the internal potency are displayed in his activities in Vrindavan, but his external potential works are directed in his features at Kshirodakasaya Vishnu, Garbhodakasaya Vishnu, and Karanarnavasaya Vishnu. So Sri Vishnu Chakri says that interested Vaishnavas, that they should not be interested in hearing only about the Lord's activities like Rasa Leela. Many people tend to take interest in the pastimes of the Lord as in the Rasa Leela, but Sri Vishnu Chakra Thakur recommends that one should try to understand the tattva of the Lord, and that is what is mentioned here also about so many forms of the Lord, and that all these forms are non-different from each other. So when the Lord gave the demigods an assurance, then the demigods went back, and the Lord climbed on his carrier Garuda, and he left for Madhuvan to meet Dhruva Maharaj. Then the next shloka, we see the form of the Lord, which is brilliant like lightning, in which Dhruva Maharaj in this mature yogic process was fully absorbed in meditation, all of a sudden disappeared. Thus Dhruva Maharaj was disturbed and his meditation broke. But as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the personality of Godhead present, just as he had been seeing the Lord in his heart. So Dhruva Maharaj was very constantly meditating on that form of the Lord in his heart. So when he was deeply meditating on that, he saw that form of the Lord within his heart, and then all of a sudden that form disappeared from him. And then he was very highly disturbed. So when he was disturbed, he opened his eyes, and to his surprise, he found that the same form which the Lord manifested in his heart, in the same form the Lord appeared right in front of his eyes. So few important points I mentioned in this verse, also in the purport. This form of the Lord appeared due to the maturity of Dhruva Maharaj's sadhana. So similarly, the Lord can manifest himself to anyone who is perfect in his sadhana, or one who matures in devotion service. Then one develops bhakti for a form which he meditates on. So some can meditate on various forms of the Lord, like Narsimha or Rama and so forth. So whatever form one meditates, the Lord, he can see that form in his heart, and at the same time, one can develop bhakti by this process of meditation. And the devotee over a period of time develops attachment to that form, and then gradually develops ecstatic symptoms also. So the Lord became pleased with the way Dhruva Maharaj was meditating on that form. The Lord is independent to choose on to whom he should reveal and to whom he need not. He cannot force the Lord to appear in our heart. But Dhruva Maharaj became very, very mature in his devotional service. And he was always thinking of Krishna, and that is what is called Krishna consciousness. But one cannot imitate this process, because many people, it is said that even during Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj's time, he used to be in a secluded place and chant. Sometimes there's also a mention that he used to, because many people used to come and disturb him, he used to go to the toilet and chant. It is also mentioned in the Shastras that one should not chant, enter the toilet with one's beats. And but what happens is that Gaur Kishore Das Babaji was a great acharya in our parampara. So one cannot try to imitate him. And so there was one person who tried to imitate Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj and tried to exhibit some ecstatic symptoms. But common people could understand that he was an imitator. So example is given that just by entering a maternity room, one cannot give birth to a child, but one has to follow the prescribed method that is given in the Shastras. So there is a reference in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu to this extent, which says that Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatri Vidim Vina Aikantiki Harer Bhaktir Patat Daiva Kalpate. The translation is devotional service to the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic literatures like Upanishads, Puranas, and the Pancharatra is simply a disturbance in the society. So anyone who tries to meditate on a form of the Lord on a speculative basis without reference to the Shastras, such people are basically a disturbance to society, just like there was a person who was trying to imitate Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji. So one has to refer to the Shastras and also associate with sadhus and accept the Guru. Uh, that is the only way one can progress in his spiritual life. So one has to follow the six Goswamis who laid down all these details in the scriptures which they have given. There is another quote in the Svetaswara Upanishad which says that Yasya deve para bhaktir yata deve tata gurav yasya ite katita hi Prakashante Mahatmanaha. Translation is only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the inputs of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. So many times somebody could sit and read the Shastras at home without referring through the proper spiritual master or without association of a sadhu. And then they could get into, end up with mental speculation on the form of the Lord. So, but anything that has no reference to the scriptures, or those who don't have faith in the scriptures or the spiritual master, to them these Vedic knowledge is not revealed. Vedic knowledge is something that is revealed, not informed. So one should be very careful to not to imitate the position of Dhruva Maharaj or Narad Muni, etc. There is a similar example that is given in Srimad Bhagavatam first canto, where it is mentioned as to how Narad Muni, when he was a small child, uh, he got association of the Bhakti Vedantas. So he got some information about it. And then it so happened that one day his mother was bitten by a snake, by time in the form of a snake, and his mother left her body. So when he was alone, all of a sudden he was very desperate because she was the only person with whom he had association with, and nobody else. And these Bhakti Vedantas with whom he heard Vedic scriptures, they left back, and he was left alone. So at that time, he was looking for someone who can give him that consolation. And in the process, he went through many forests and deep jungles and so forth, and valleys and so forth. But at some point, as he was walking through all these places, he was feeling very tired. And when he was tired, he took bath in a lake and then tried to drink some water. And then he was feeling a bit relieved from the exhaustion. But then thereafter, he tried to sit underneath a tree and he started to meditate upon the super soul situated within the heart. So he had also heard from the Bhakti Vedantas, and so he started trying to meditate on the super soul within the heart. As soon as he started meditating, then tears started coming out of his eyes and so forth. And then, without delay, it is said the Lord appeared on the lotus of his heart. So thereafter, what happened was the Lord, just as Dhruv disappeared from Dhruv Maharaj's eyes, disappeared from Dhruv Maharaj's heart, similarly, the Lord disappeared from the heart of Narad Muni also. And then Narad Muni became very, very disturbed, just as Dhruv Maharaj was disturbed. That is when the Lord gave an assurance, but this time he did not, in the case of Narad Muni, he did not give a physical appearance, but in the form of a voice, the Lord told Narad Muni that in this birth you will not see me because you have not matured in devotion service, but you will definitely see me in my next birth. So thereafter, Narad Muni contemplated on the same voice message which he got, and then gradually uh, his grief was mitigated, and then one day he left his body, and it is mentioned that he left his body just like lightning, and then in the next birth he became Narad Muni. So this is how something similar in the case of Narad Muni happened, just like Dhruva Maharaj. So Dhruva Maharaj was also disturbed, but in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, when the Lord disappeared from his heart, immediately Dhruva Maharaj opened his eyes, and to his surprise, he saw the same form of the Lord as in the heart right in front of him. So the Lord gave Dhruva Maharaj much more mercy by coming right in front of him. So Shastras explained that it is good to see the form of the Lord in the heart, but still more merciful is when the Lord appears right in front of our eyes. So this was that extraordinary mercy that Dhruva Maharaj got. And this is because uh, Dhruva Maharaj became mature in his devotional service. So as soon as one becomes mature in devotional service, the Lord can manifest himself in a form that the devotee meditates on. And also, it is also mentioned that Dhruva Maharaj could realize this form because he meditated on the instructions given by Narada Muni. Narada Muni, it is Narada Muni who sent him to the forest, and of course, his mother sent him to the forest to see the personality of Godhead. But it was Narada Muni who initiated him by giving the mantra and gave him directions to uh, perform bhakti. So, because he was Narada Muni was the spiritual master of Dhruva Maharaj. By Narada Muni's mercy, he could see the Lord's form. Another example that is given in the Shastras is about Satyavrata Muni meditating on the form of the Lord of as Damodar in the Damodara Ashtakam. So there, Satyavrati Muni is meditating on the Damodara form of the Lord and is requesting the Lord to appear in that form. So Damodara Ashtakam, sloka number 3 onwards, he's praying to the Lord. Then there is a mention that devotees can see the form of the Lord when they become mature in their devotion service. So Lord Brahma he quotes in his prayers, in his Brahma Samhita, he says, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Sandas Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. The translation says, I worship Govinda, the Supreme, the primeval Lord, who is Shyamsundara Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts, with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. So, when a person performs this Premanjana Churita Bhakti, that means performs devotional service and which matures in the form of love of Godhead, the devotee can see the Lord in their heart with that devotion tinged with that salve of love. That means when one develops love of Godhead through the process of devotional service, one can see the Lord within the heart. So this is how the Lord manifested his form to Dhruva Maharaj, because Dhruva Maharaj matured in devotional service. And in the case of Narad Muni, the Lord says that it is because I wanted you to develop some eagerness. That is why I have revealed this form to you. But you will not see me in this birth, but next birth you will definitely see me. So the Lord wanted to develop increase the eagerness of Narad Muni to associate with the Lord. So for a short moment of time, the Lord appeared in his heart and then disappeared. But what happened was that in that case, in Narad Muni's case, the Lord did this to increase his eagerness, because as soon as he saw the Lord, tears started coming out of Narad Muni's eyes. So Narad Muni became much more eager to see that form of the Lord. That is how he left his body also and became Narad Muni in the next birth. In the case of Dhruva Maharaj, it is said that Dhruva Maharaj was Lord gave him much more mercy by appearing in the same form as he was in the heart, right in front of his eyes. So this was special mercy that was given to Dhruva Maharaj. And then there is, of course, before concluding the class for the day, there is a mention that the Lord is, of course, absolute. So the form within the heart of a devotee, the form in the temple, that is Archa Vigraha, and the original form in Vaikuntha or Vrindavan, they are all the same. They are not different from one another. So when we go to the temple, it is said the Archa Vigraha is present as a causeless mercy of the Lord himself. Because we cannot see the spiritual form of the Lord is present in this Archa Vigraha incarnation, and he is there. Only thing is, it might take for some time. When we mature ourselves in devotional service, it is said that we can see that same form of the Lord, which we see in the temple and can meditate upon. So every temple has got some deities on which we meditate upon. So this sloka is concluding with the point that whether one sees the form of the heart in a devotee, or right in front of his eyes, or in the temple as Archa Vigraha, or it is an original form in Vaikuntha or Vrindavan Dhamma, they are all the same, because the Lord is absolute and non-different from each other. The amount of potencies might vary, but then they are all Satchidananda Vigraha. Like Krishna has got much more qualities than all other forms. One may not be able to develop love for Narasimhadeva as one may develop attraction for Krishna. So these are some variations that might have from form to form, but then they are all non-different from one another. They are all Satchidananda Vigraha, and they are all there to give mercy to conditioned souls like us. So that is how they appear, and they all appear as from the Shirodaya Vishnu. With this, I conclude the class for the day. If anybody has got any questions or comments, they can ask me.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Danda Pranam Prabhu.
Nanda Prabhu.
Thanks for the wonderful class, Prabhuji. I was just thinking, Prabhuji, like as you were saying that eating, sleeping, mating, defending is also there in with the demigods and other places. Like,
yes.
So I just was inclusive. Like, how is it like we know from the shastras about the demigods a little bit, but thing is in the future, if the demigods also if they have some children and other things, how would one be able to know them?
What is the question? Like, are you asking why the demigods have fear, or regarding their progeny? I'm not in a position to comment. Demigods' progeny also will be in their respective planets wherever the demigods are. And demigods themselves may have to take birth back in the material world if they don't associate with devotees in the heavenly planets or practice their sadhana, because many times they also become puffed up because of the opulences that they have. So many times they also think themselves to be independent of the Lord. So that independent nature of the demigods also brings them down here. Many times they perform devotional service mixed with fruitive results. So in such cases, they come back to this earth to continue the devotional service. So regarding the progeny of demigods, it's the same as themselves. Unless and until they or their associates or their dependents or descendants or even their followers continue to associate with devotees of the Lord and continue the Shravanam and Kirtanam process, there is no possibility of their elevation to the spiritual world.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. And Prabhu, they are fear of death also. Like the demigods also, they face the death.
Yes, they also die,
Oh,
but the only thing, they don't have a painful death like us. It is mentioned that just before they leave their body, they become old and immediately die. I mean, we go through old age, they don't have an old age like us. They are blissful all through with their all their opulences. The day they have to leave their body, at that moment, that is a moment, that's all. They don't have a realization. At least we have a realization that we go through old age, but they don't have that realization of old age. That is a disadvantage in them. They just instantly leave the body.
oh. Lord Shiva is exceptional, Guru. Like Lord Shiva doesn't come in.
Does not come under the demigod's tattva. He is not the
Okay.
original personality of Godhead, but then there is a tattva which is totally different, which is called Shiva tattva. So he is definitely higher than all the other demigods.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, Prabhu. And moreover, Prabhu, like as we have to think, we have to just Dhruv Maharaj was thinking of the personality of Godhead in his heart, and
Yes.
he found that. So how should one should how should one think of Krishna? Like normally we have deities at home. Should we think of the deities in our heart like the same deities, or sometimes we go to like Vrindavan, Radha Sham Sundar is there. We like very much that Radha Sham Sundar. So it how is it one any particular deity we should keep like, or how exactly to?
Okay. Good question. Generally, in the initial stages of what we practice known as sadhana bhakti, it is not possible for us to understand what is our natural constitutional position and what is our rasa. But Acharya has explained that there is a natural tendency in us to worship a particular form of the Lord. So when we go to the temple where we are situated, or when we go to Vrindavana Dhama, we meditate on those deities. But then ultimately, when it comes to home deities, it is always said that the home deities are an expansion of the temple deities. So, irrespective of whatever form of deity that you establish within the home, they are an expansion spiritually of the deities in the temple with which we are attached to. That is why it is said that we must always attach ourselves to one of the temples so that your personal deity becomes a manifest, an expansion of the temple deities. So when you perform your sadhana properly, then one can realize that the irrespective of whatever form of the deity that you have, at some point of time you realize that my natural inclination is towards this particular form of the Lord. See, when we go to South India, I was on a trip to South India recently and I saw many people worshipping the Garbhodakasai Vishnu form of the Lord also, though they may not be knowing the details of what Garbhodakasai Vishnu is. So at some time or the other, it is said, our acharyas have mentioned that the particular form of the Lord to which we are attached to will manifest at some time when we mature in our devotional service. Like Dhruva Maharaj's case, it was Vishnu, it was not Krishna. So he saw the Vishnu form of the Lord. So whatever form we are attached to, that will be manifest at some time when we mature in our devotional service.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thanks a lot. Thanks for a wonderful class. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else? Any other questions, comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Now you are telling about Dhruva. At this I'm thinking in every Bhagavatam, every there Narada is a 5-year-old boy. Dhruva is 5 years. Prahlad Maharaj is 5 years. There is no girl in Bhagavatam, girl devotee.
Okay.
Means after the Devahuti, it's in youth and they are becoming devotee. But in early stages, there is no girl devotee. Why you
Okay.
are, what is the reason behind this?
I'm not in a position to comment why there is no woman devotee mentioned in the Shastras. But as far as I can give you the following answers for that. One is that when it comes to devotional service, Srila Prabhupada has been so merciful enough that he has opened the doors for even women to practice devotional service on the same level as men. Bhagavatam was composed more than 5,000 years before, though it's an eternal scripture. But within the, I'm not able to give the names of women devotees, but if you see, Tulasi is a great devotee of the Lord. And the second important thing that I would like to define is that this identification as a man or a woman is more to do with physical body. The soul has nothing to do with women or men. The soul is eternal and there's no woman form, or the body has got a form, but not the soul. So one should not get carried away by why there is no mention of women in the Shastras. I think anyone, as a matter of fact, should take the examples of what is given in Srimad Bhagavatam and follow it up strictly, irrespective of whether they have a form as a man or. And if we see, we don't worship only Krishna. The highest form of worship in our sampradaya is Radha Krishna, where Radharani is always present, and she is the greatest devotee as an example of Krishna. And even other forms, we don't worship Narsimha, we worship the Lakshmi Narsimha or Prahlad Narsimha. We worship Lakshmi Narayana, Sita Rama. We don't worship Rama or Narayana or Narsimha alone. We always worship with their consort. And these consorts, as you might be knowing, they are all emanations from Srimati Radharani, who is none other than an expansion from Krishna himself. So they are all examples of devotees. Maybe.
But the soul level, all are equal, but in Bhagavatam, we see mainly Bharat Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And but in reality, if you see, I mentioned Radharani herself is an expansion from Krishna himself. So she's the greatest devotee for Krishna. Why not we do that? She's always thinking how to please Krishna. Is it clear, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other comments?
Prabhu, like just to, if you feel, if it's right, you can just correct me. Like
yes.
Mirabai and other gopis, like they were from the childhood gopis when they were very much devoted to Krishna. It's not many, the lakhs of the crores of gopis were devoted to Krishna. So in this way, not only Prahlad Maharaj, and they were, because Krishna was back of gopis. So it's not that it's not mentioned, but yes, Mirabai, I don't know whether it's mentioned in Bhagavatam, but
actually, even in the case of Srimati Radharani, there is no, excepting in one place, there is no mention in Srimad Bhagavatam. But that is why it is said that one must try to understand the tattva first before going into the Rasalila pastimes or any other pastimes of that state, because understanding tattva is very, very important. So if you know the tattva, then you will know, automatically understand the importance of position of Srimati Radharani or even the gopis.
So when you mention tattva, means what exactly?
Tattva is, as it is, the constitutional nature of a position of a personality, whether it is Godhead. For example, we say Bhagavad Gita itself it says, there's mentioned tattva. That means when we say Krishna, we must understand what is the position of Krishna. So if we try to understand the pastime of Krishna without understanding his tattva, we can end up with speculation, like what this question came up, why there is no feminine devotee. I was not able to recollect Mirabai, because I've not read much about her, but I've heard she's a great devotee of the Lord. Like that, there are many other devotees also. Of course, you mentioned the gopis. Thank you very much for that comment. But the thing is, we should understand who are they. That is what is called tattva. If you know that tattva as it is, then we can understand that, yes, this is their position in devotional service. Otherwise, there can be speculation in terms of Radharani or gopis or even Mirabai. I don't know much about Mirabai, but I've heard that she's a great devotee of the Lord.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other questions, comments? Thank you all very much. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.